Hey Scrappy friends, it's Audrey again with another page with the November kit from Hip Kit Club, which features a lot of wintry and Christmas products and a lot of great cut files too. So this is a cut file designed by Lorelei Murphy, and it is kind of a ring with some snowflakes on it and just a really beautiful cut file. And I love the patterns of the snowflakes too. And I love the font that the word winter is in. And I'm going to use every single bit. So I have gone and traced it, and I separated out the snowflakes there because I wanted to work a little bit more with just the ring itself. And I drew a square, and I'm working here all in Silhouette Studio. I drew a square that's the size of my photo, and I kind of fill it in with white just so it kind of, stands out from the rest of the design. And I just use that to help gauge me, where I want to place my items. So you'll notice that some of the single snowflakes fit perfectly over the snowflakes that are kind of embedded in the ring there. So that's very helpful because you can cut the ring out of one color, which I did. I cut it out of white, and then you can cut the snowflakes out of different pattern papers, which is working there, the top right of my screen, and then you can lay them over the white, the white parts of the snowflakes, and then use it kind of as the white part as a base to glue your other patterns down. So I'll show you that in a little bit here when I get to that point. So I am gonna work with this piece of pattern paper from American Crafts. I think this collection is called Sweater Weather. It's kind of a light blue. It's really pretty with some snowflakes on it, and I wanted to tone it down a little bit with some gesso, and I began with a sponge brush, but just because it was what I grabbed off my counter, and I started, kind of wiping or brushing the gesso on, but then I started dabbing it to kind of get some of the paint out of the sponge more, and I really love the way that the texture that the dabbing added to it. So yeah, I like how that that texture worked in the background there. So I took some Distress inks here, the Distress Oxide inks in Peacock. I think it's called Peacock Feathers or just Peacock Blue maybe. And this is part of the color kit this month that goes with the November kit for Hip Kit Club. And I added a little bit of water to it, and I splattered it on the background. And then I decided I really like this color, and there's not too much of this bright blue like within the kit itself. It's other shades of blue, but I really liked having this other bright shade of blue, and I thought it would add a nice pop to the page. So I'm going to paint a couple of my white snowflakes that color. Not sure if I'm going to use them, for sure, but it's always nice to have, and I could always use them on future pages if I don't necessarily use them on this page. So my paper was a little bit warped, and I do this often when it's still kind of a tiny bit wet. I'll say, not even wet, I'll just say damp. I tape it down with some Scotch tape right to my table, and I leave it like that because I think it helps me, it helps the paper flatten out over time. So that's why I've got my Scotch tape out there. And you can see I put those blue snowflakes on. I really love those different blues together. And I loved this big gold and white snowflake from the chipboard pack from Pink Fresh Studio. So I knew I had to use it on this page. And because I have one place where there's gold, I'm going to have to layer some other bits of gold around the page as well. So I had intended just to kind of use some blues and pinks, and as I was going through, and perhaps some reds because my son his coat is red in this photo. I picked out that little piece of holly with the kind of the moss green and the little red holly berries, and I just loved adding in that little bit of moss green, like I did actually on the previous page. I did with this kit too. I added in some moss green as well. So I also pulled out the little mittens in the top left there, and they had a little bit of moss green there too, so that will help kind of draw your eye around if I have more places where that color is. So I cut out some extra snowflakes here from pattern paper. These red ones got messed up because, I don't know, my mat got stuck or something and it didn't cut through all the way, but I'm just going to use the ones I had. And I decided I didn't want to use red snowflakes anyway because the red was so dominant in my photo that I didn't want there to be too much more red. So just a few little hints of red here and there, and I'll just let the red stand out in my photo. But I love the green ones. I know you don't think of green snowflakes, but I just love the way that, what that color adds with the blue and the pink snowflakes. So it was pretty easy to, you know, cluster here because the cut file kind of, you know, it did the design for you, the design portion, especially when I made it so large. You know, there's a cluster in the bottom right and there's a cluster in the top left, and you know, you work around that. So that made it pretty easy. So I am working with these mittens here, and I took my scissors and I cut the mittens like between, it was obviously one piece, but I cut between the thumbs of the mittens, and so that I could kind of hang them by the string that they are tied together by. So I am playing around with, you know, how those hang from the circle frame here. And yes, I keep going back and forth with those, and I play with those forever to figure out how I want them to hang. And then I played around with the title too. I thought maybe putting it around the curve, and I like that idea, but it obviously wasn't cut on a curve, so I would have really had to have bend it a lot, and I don't know, it just wasn't working on the curve, but perhaps next time I could try that out. So I decided to keep it down on the bottom left, but I didn't want it just floating there, and I thought to help complete kind of a visual triangle around the page, that if I put it, you know, put it a red heart behind it, it would make it stand out more and kind of, you know, draw your eye around the page like that. What else did I grab? I grabbed some puffy stickers, and the puffy stickers had different shades of blue, and again, the little bit of moss green in the top there with the little bird and the little moss green branches, and then the moss green on the mittens. Then I considered hanging the mittens from the word winter, which I liked, but then I felt that that was too clustered down there, and that I needed something else up back on the frame. So I take the mittens off the word winter. And I'm just looking for other little bits to add. So I went through and I added some gold stars because I had that gold in that one chipboard snowflake, and I felt I needed to bring a little bit more gold in it. Oh, I have a die cut snowflake there too that's gold. I forgot about that one, but you know, just and it's too bad that the gold doesn't show up when I'm filming or even in the photos, because it's very hard to take photos of reflective, shiny things like that. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's very difficult to get everything shiny and reflective. So they kind of look brown or even black when you look at them like this, but they are all gold foiled. So I'm going to go back through and glue down most of the stuff. Now, as I was gluing the frame, I just felt that the circle part itself wasn't really standing out as much as I wanted, and I felt like the clusters were trying to take over, and I really wanted the white to stand out. So I don't show it to you on film, but I do go back and hand stitch just the circle part of this cut file. I don't stitch any of the snowflakes or anything. So it took me a while to hand stitch it, but I really like the texture it added and that it really defined it a lot more. All right, so I've got most of the things glued down, and I wanted to map my photo on something. I don't usually like just a photo kind of, I don't know, naked there. I mean, I realize it's not naked because the page is busy with snowflakes, but I feel like I always have to mount the photo on something. So I just used a piece of cardstock that comes in the cardstock kit this month, and it's very similar in to the shade of the background paper, but I like that it's just different enough that you can see it, and again provides a different frame for the photo. I put some craft foam there to kind of give it a little dimension, and as usual, I struggle with how to adhere my craft foam because I don't like using a liquid glue on it, so I use the tape, which is really a pain. I hate using that tape, but it's what works the best, I feel, on the foam. And yeah, just gonna cluster these little bits here. What else do I do? Oh, I added a couple enamel dots just to a few of the snowflakes. I didn't add it to every single one, but just a couple of the snowflakes, just for a little bit more dimension. And that's what I was talking about right there when I just glued that green snowflake down. When I was editing the cut file itself in Silhouette Studio, you know, the snowflakes I cut out fit perfectly over the white snowflakes that were already part of the frame part. So that's a nice feature, because if you want the frame to be one color and your snowflakes to be another color, you know, you just cut the snowflakes out of paper separately and you can layer them on like I did here. I had a couple extra white ones too, and I thought I would add just some plain white ones back in as well to pick up on the white a little bit. So this is really quickly, we get a lot of snow here where I live in the center of New York State. We get a lot of lake effect snow coming down from the Great Lakes, and when it gets cold, it just dumps on Syracuse. So this was almost exactly a year ago. We got we got over 2 feet of snow, November 21st. It was a lot of snow. It's always a lot of fun though. And I just love when the kids just go out there and they plop right down in the snow and they're catching snowflakes, and and it's so nice just to sit out there in the peaceful, quiet snow and just listen, and you can hear the snow falling, and it's kind of amazing actually. So I added the date there with my date stamp and a little label that came in the die cut pack, and there is my finished page. So I love these colors. I love what the bright blue brought into the page. I think that really made a big difference with the color palette here. And the hand stitching too added some nice texture. And just look at those layers of snowflakes. Such a fun cut file. I am loving this kit. I am so excited about Christmas, which leads me to my announcement that coming up December 1st, I will be starting the 2017 version of 'Tis the Season. So it's 12 days of holiday scrapping videos. I've got more than 12 friends joining me this time around. A lot of scrapbookers that I am sure you will know their names. So very, very excited. So stay tuned. December 1st, that's when that will all start. Thanks so much for stopping by and watching the video today. Stay scrappy, friends.